Boyfriend accused me of cheating over a random email folder with a man's name, then started stalking me after I blocked him. We've been together for 2 years. In many ways, this has been the healthiest, most fulfilling relationship I've ever had. He treats me better than anyone I've ever been with, and I love him dearly. He has 2 kids, and I have one, but that's not really relevant to this story. We don't live together. I bought my house just a few months before we started dating, so we only see each other when our kids are with their other parents. And honestly, that's worked out just fine for us. I'm naturally an anxious person. Stress is like my default state of being. But with him, I've always felt at peace. He calms me down in a way no one else ever has, and that's something I've deeply appreciated. I've always felt secure in this relationship, until today. Because today, he completely sucker-punched me emotionally. Out of nowhere, he's absolutely convinced that I'm cheating on him. And I mean convinced. The reason? 2 days ago, we were just hanging out, and I wanted to show him something on my phone. Totally normal, right? I open my browser, and an old tab is still there, my Hotmail inbox. For context, I've had this account for 24 years. I barely use it anymore except for junk mail since I mostly stick to my Gmail now. But that's not what caught his attention. In the split second before I clicked away, he noticed something, a folder in my inbox with a man's name on it. Let's just say the name was Matthew. I barely even registered it. It's an empty folder. I haven't touched it in at least 15 years. I have zero recollection of why I created it in the first place. Maybe it was important at some point. Maybe not. But I have no idea, and I certainly haven't used it in well over a decade. Apparently, though, that's enough evidence for him to jump straight to the worst possible conclusion. According to him, I closed the tab too quickly, as if I was trying to hide something. I was acting weird, nervous, and suspicious. Therefore, I must have cheated or am actively cheating. I honestly don't even know how to respond to this. It's like he suddenly flipped a switch and decided to see me as someone I know I'm not. The truth is simple. I am not cheating. Not now, not ever. He is the love of my life, the man of my dreams, the one person who has truly made me feel safe and cherished. I have never, ever given him a single reason to doubt my loyalty. I spend an entire week with him at his place when our kids are with their other parents. My phone is never hidden. My life is an open book. When I'm at my house, it's all about my kid. 100%. I work a lot, and whatever free time I have is spent with her. There is literally not a single second in my life where I could even begin to entertain the thought of another person, let alone actually cheat. Through email? Are you kidding me? My downtime consists of hanging out with my kid, watching YouTube, and cuddling with my cat. And I send so many pictures of me chilling with my cat to him. We text constantly. I'm super chatty. There has never been any secrecy. So when this whole thing blew up, my first reaction was a mix of anger and confusion. Like, how could he possibly not trust me? What is even happening right now? No matter what I say, he insists I don't make sense. In his mind, he's just adding 1 plus 1, and to him, the answer is 2. I keep telling him he's the one who isn't making sense. We go back and forth over text, but he refuses to call or come over to actually talk about it. I've sent him screenshots of my inbox showing unopened emails dating back over a year. I typed in James in the search bar, nothing. I showed him my completely empty sent folder, which, by the way, is weird because I have sent emails over the years, so where the hell did they go? I even gave him my login and password so he could see for himself. That email account is a graveyard of spam, Amazon order confirmations, and McDonald's app receipts. That's it. And yet, somehow, he still doesn't believe me. Now he says he needs time to think. And I'm just stuck. Stuck in this loop of pissed, confused, and devastated. What the hell is going on? Help. Sad face. Update. So, it did not end well. After 48 hours of exhausting back and forth texts, because he outright refused to talk on the phone or meet in person, I was emotionally drained. I had given him everything he asked for. My passwords, screenshots, explanations. I let him comb through my email himself, just so he could see that there was nothing suspicious, nothing hidden, nothing to justify this ridiculous accusation. But none of it mattered. He wouldn't back down. At this point, his behavior was going beyond irrational. It was concerning. It was obsessive. I started wondering if something deeper was going on with him, like a mental health episode or some kind of paranoia. Because this level of fixation over nothing? It just didn't make sense anymore. And it didn't stop. The constant texting, the accusations, the late-night messages at all hours, as if he was trying to make sense of something that fundamentally did not make sense. I was exhausted, emotionally wrung out, and honestly, I started to feel unsafe. So, I blocked him. And that's when it escalated even further. When he realized I had cut off contact, he immediately started sending emails to my work email. Desperate, frantic messages telling me to check my Hotmail again. As if something had magically changed in the last few hours. As if, somehow, reality would shift to fit the story he had built in his head. So I blocked him there, too. And you'd think that would be the end of it, right? Nope. Because when he couldn't reach me, he went after my best friend. He messaged her with, if I can't talk to her, I'll go through you instead. What the actual hell? My friend, to her credit, didn't even entertain it. She never replied. She's been by my side through all of this, watching it unfold in real time, and she sees it for exactly what it is, crazy. She's standing with me because she knows I don't deserve any of this. At this point, I figured it was over. He had exhausted every possible way to get to me. There was nothing left to say. Yesterday, I went to work still feeling drained, sad, and honestly shaken. I must have looked miserable because my entire team noticed immediately. They rallied around me, hugging me, offering support, just being there. I ended up having lunch with one of my close colleagues, trying to process everything. It helped. The day passed. Slowly, but it passed. By 4 p.m., it was finally time to go home. I walked out to the parking lot, flanked by 2 colleagues as I recounted the story to them. They listened, shaking their heads at how insane the whole thing had become. Eventually, they reached their car. One of the girls carpooled, so they split off while I kept walking toward my own car, parked just 2 rows away. And that's when I saw him. This situation has gone so far beyond anything I ever expected. As I walked to my car, still processing everything, I suddenly heard a loud voice behind me. A man's voice. I turned around, and there he was. He was walking toward me fast, his face contorted with anger, still rambling about emails. His eyes were wild, and in that moment, something in my gut screamed that I wasn't safe. I put my hand up and said firmly, "I'm not doing this with you right now." But my mind was already racing, calculating if I could even make it to my car before he got to me. Then he snapped. He started screaming, calling me a whore, a slut, words I never imagined coming from his mouth. His face was twisted in rage, and it hit me that I had never seen him like this before. Something deep inside me kicked in, pure survival instinct. My body moved before my brain could catch up. I turned and ran to my colleague's car. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely open the door, but I managed to slip inside. The moment the door shut behind me, the dam broke. I couldn't breathe. My chest was tight. I was hyperventilating. My colleagues were immediately on alert. One of them grabbed my hand. The other was already putting the car in drive. "We're taking you home." Meanwhile, he was still right there, barely 6 feet away, his eyes burning with pure hate. He was motioning for me to get out of the car, his hands jerking aggressively like he owned me, like I was supposed to just obey. We didn't wait. We drove off. I spent the whole ride crying, shaking, apologizing over and over while I kept looking behind us, terrified he was following. When I finally got home, my mom was there. The moment I stepped through the door, I collapsed into her arms. Everything, the fear, the exhaustion, the sheer weight of what had just happened, hit me all at once. She called the police. A kind officer answered. His words stuck with me. "I've got nothing else going on right now. You're my priority. I'm coming to you as soon as I can." And he did. He came straight to my house, sat with me, listened. He was patient, understanding, and walked me through every step of what was going to happen next. That night, my ex was officially placed under arrest for criminal harassment with specific conditions. They didn't handcuff him or take him to jail. Apparently, it was more of a verbal arrest, and he'll likely be summoned to court later. I don't know the exact legal terms, but I know one thing. He is not allowed to come near me anymore. And despite everything, I finally felt a shred of relief. I have a strong support system. People who care about me. And for the first time in days, I started to believe that maybe, just maybe, I was safe. Edit. I just had a 2-hour conversation with his ex. Let's call her Vanessa. She's not the mother of his kids, but she was the girl he dated between his kid's mom and me. And what she told me, it shook me to my core. She lived through the exact same situation. The paranoia, the control, the emotional abuse, the manipulation. Only difference? She never called the cops. According to her, he was ultra-controlling, physically and verbally abusive toward his 2 sons, had a serious drug problem, and had an unhealthy, borderline inappropriate, relationship with his kid's mother. And then she told me the part that made my stomach drop. He was psychologically and sexually abusive toward her. She said he worshipped her at first, just like he did with me. Put her on a pedestal, made her feel like she was the best thing that ever happened to him. But then the cracks started showing. The red flags. The things I had noticed but ignored because I loved him. I felt sick. I knew there were things about him that weren't right. I felt them, but I brushed them aside. I hope he gets the help he needs. But more than anything, I hope he never gets the chance to do this to anyone else. Edit 2. He's following me. I saw him twice today in places he should not have been. I documented everything and went straight to the police station. Thank God they're taking this seriously.